Poor wee Elspeth was sitting in the window-seat, admiring her reflection in the panes, and perfectly unconcerned. Catching sight of her, I had an excellent thought. "If you're nervous for her, why not send her to Glasgow too?" I asked him, very unconcerned. "Are ye mad, sir, alone on the road, a lassie?" I reassured him I would escort her safely to her mamma. "And leave me here!" he cried, so I suggested he come as well, but he wouldn't have that. I realized later he probably had his strong-box in the house. He hummed and hawed a good deal, but eventually fear for his daughter, which was entirely groundless as far as mobs were concerned, overcame him, and we were packed off together in the gig, I driving, she humming gaily at the thought of a jaunt, and her devoted parent crying instruction and consternation after us as we rattled off. "Take care of my poor wee lamb, Mr. Flashman," he wailed. "To be sure I will, sir," I replied. And I did. The banks of the Clyde in those days were very pretty, not like the grimy slums that cover them now. There was a gentle evening haze, I remember, and a warm sun setting on a glorious day, and after a mile or two I suggested we stop and ramble among the thickets by the waterside. Miss Elspeth was eager, so we left the pony grazing and went into a little copse. I suggested we sit down, and Miss Elspeth was eager again, that glorious vacant smile informed me. I believe I murmured a few pleasantries, played with her hair, and then kissed her. Miss Elspeth was more eager still. Then I got to work in earnest, and Miss Elspeth's eagerness knew no bounds. I had great claw marks on my back for a fortnight after. When we'd finished, she lay in the grass, drowsy like a contented kitten, and after a few pleased sighs she said, "Was that what the minister means when he talks of fornication?" Astonished, I said, "Yes, it was." "Ah-ha," said she. "Why has he such a down on it?" It seemed to me time to be pressing on towards Glasgow. Ignorant women I have met, and I knew that Miss Elspeth must rank high among them, but I had not supposed until now that she had no earthly idea of elementary human relations. Yet there were even married women in my time who did not connect their husbands' antics in bed with the conception of children. She simply did not understand what had taken place between us. She liked it, certainly, but she had no thought of anything beyond the act, no notion of consequences or guilt or the need for secrecy. In her, ignorance and stupidity formed a perfect shield against the world. This, I suppose, is innocence. It startled me, I can tell you. I had a vision of her remarking happily, "Mamma, you'll never guess what Mr. Flashman and I have been doing this evening." Not that I minded too much, for when all was said I didn't care a button for the Morrisons' opinion, and if they could not look after their daughter it was their own fault, but the less trouble the better. For her own sake I hoped that she might keep her mouth shut. I took her back to the gig and helped her in, and I thought what a beautiful fool she was. Oddly enough, I felt a sudden affection for her in that moment, such as I hadn't felt for any of my other women, even though some of them had been better tumples than she. It had nothing to do with rolling her in the grass, looking at the gold hair that had fallen loose on her cheek, and seeing the happy smile in her eyes. I felt a great desire to keep her, not only for bed, but to have her near me. I wanted to watch her face, and the way she pushed her hair into place, and the steady, serene look that she turned on me. "Hello, Flashy," I remember thinking. "Careful, old son." But it stayed with me, that queer, empty feeling in my inside, and of all the recollections in my life, there isn't one that is clearer than of that warm evening by the Clyde, with Elspeth smiling at me beneath the trees.